Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Monday. It's February 23rd. This will be our chart lesson today. A couple of different ways you could see this one today. I saw a spike and a channel down here. There's also looks like a two-tiered channel working down, but we had this break really early overshoot, which led to the break, and then we tried to make a new low. We didn't quite get it, and then we reversed out of there, and we worked up into the close. But I think you were better off just to play this as a range, and there's probably like a midline right in here somewhere or another, probably right there. And so I think you're better off to play this as a range. I'm going to take these off, even though I think they're probably valid. It doesn't help you a whole lot. And as you see here, I think if you played it as a range, this was my early lows. Later on, you might have wanted to move it down to these lows, and you see that's exactly where we bounced, and that probably gives you a little bit of a different midline right in there. So that's how I played it most of the second part of the day. Early on I was playing it a little bit shallower like I originally had it. We'll leave it down here because most of your price action came in these two tiers later in the day. um, so not a lot of trades today, really not a lot of volume today. There was a nice sell-off in the overnight. And, there didn't really much happen until this bounce right here around a little after 9 o'clock. And then we got in the upper half and it was a little slow and we had a fairly nice move down. And then right into the 2 o'clock hour, we had this bounce. And I didn't even mark any of it, but there's a couple of longs right there that were pretty obvious if you were still trading that you might take. But just not much happening. I think we were just digesting some of the huge move that we had back from Friday, as you can see there. I mean, it was a huge move up. We busted through, or I shouldn't say we busted through, but we broke through 2100. And notice how that acted as support pretty much all day today. That's the way those century marks are. They're very emotional, psychological type areas. And it wouldn't surprise me if we test that area from both sides a few times before we move forward. But I'm going to back on out. And again, I played this mostly as a range. I was kind of watching this spike in channel early on. But when we started to find support down here, especially right around the 2100, yeah, you got to consider that it's probably going to be support there. So, but let's talk about the trades. We had this channel working down in the overnight. We had a close outside right there, and we really already had a new low, but it was so iffy, questionable right there, all in that one bar that you probably figured you're going to get another retest of that low. So we had a little two-legged correction. There's one leg up, a little two-legged correction, and a second leg up. And if you measure those, there's your first leg. Then there's your second leg, and you can see it's basically a perfect measured move up. So it's a nice two legs. So that means you probably want to look for a measured leg down like so. And we didn't quite get that, and so that would have been another clue that might lead you to believe when we tested that twice and couldn't go any lower and started going up. That's a good clue that, hey, we're either probably going higher or we're at least not going to go much lower today. And you can see we never could get below that low point again. We even tested it one more time, and that's that double test rule. And when it held, you notice what happens. We just traded straight up into the close almost. So, um, but that's the way I was looking at it. So I was kind of watching, like I said, the spike in the channel, and but I was really looking strongly at this trading range. And you figure the highs of it will probably be a retest of the previous lows, which was support before. And notice that acted as resistance today. And that's fairly standard. That's what you expect to see. But anyway, we had the move down, we had the break, two legs up, and then we had another couple legs down to a new low. Then we tried to move higher, and then we just kind of were hung in the range the rest of the day until this bounce here. And I don't even know if I'd call this a big rally, that we just went back to the top and we were able to break through and didn't go very far at all. So really we just tested the As you can see, we tested the 2108, 2109 area, and that's just the highs from the overnight. So we really never really went much higher. Um, but let's talk about the trades. The first trade, it was a little tricky here. Everything was down here. We did have this little break right here and a new low all on the same, but you really need it to close outside. So this was the first close, in my opinion. Even though it traded outside and closed down, this was the first bar that closed outside the trend line. So you still expect a possible retest unless, and this looks rangy for all this, for this to be all that there was for the overnight and all that support right there. You got to be real careful going short into that. So draw your short-term trend line and wait on something to happen. And this looks like a really good setup right here. But if you take everything into account, that's all congestion right across there. Notice what happens. There's a failed break out the low side, a failed break out the high side. It traps a few people short. It makes a second leg up. There's one leg, a little two-legged correction, and a second leg, and that generally will lead to another leg similar to this one. So that's when I would have been looking for more downward movement. Again, we measured that a minute ago and we didn't get it, but that's what I would have been looking for right there. And so that gives you a target. We didn't miss it by much, maybe a point there, something like that. But the support down here is too strong, and it's at 2100 area. So, but anyway, you might have considered going long here. I don't even like it to the long side, other than there's a short trap, and a lot of people would have been thinking short right there. So, but I don't like it short. I really don't like it long. Because this is just more congestion. But you would have to guess that a lot of people would get trapped there. And if you could get in with a limit order, maybe a tick or so back, it still would have worked with a stop. But I just don't like it. You might have considered it because the trend line's working up and we have no close outside it, a new high yet. It's questionable. We closed right on it there, but I wouldn't call that a close outside. And we really don't get a close outside until here, up in here. And prices tried to go higher a couple of different times, and it traps everybody and it turns down. So then you got a safe place to go short here. This one maybe because notice you had your two legs up, and then you got that one little push up. It's not a very good signal bar. I went back and forth about whether or not to make this one green, but you are looking now, because you got one leg up or two legs up here with a two-legged correction in the middle, that's a pretty good indication that you may get another leg down. So you would have been safer taking this than taking any long out of here, to be honest. And this is right at the 8:30 open, and they trapped everybody to the long side, and it turned down. So again, you might have wanted to use a limit order. A stop would have worked, but it's not a very good signal bar. We didn't really have a new high yet. There's a lot of reasons that you probably would have to use a limit order there. So, but it pushes down. It doesn't really make a new low yet. It comes close. It bounces right at the previous low, pulls back. You get another push higher right there, and it fails, and that's a good place to go short there. There's a trap. And there's actually a failed second entry long right there, so you might have even considered entering there, but it's right into the support again. And so, the fact that it bounced right there again would have made me a little nervous. So I didn't like either of those last couple of moves down. I was okay if you took the short here. There's a good chance that's going to be successful. There's enough room to get out before you get down here. And the odds are you don't figure it's probably going to make a tick or two lower and then bounce. And that's kind of what happened, even though it did push down one more leg. And then you got this one moving down here. You got your break, a new low of it. And then you're moving higher again. And again, you get two legs up. And notice that there was resistance across here before, and then it acted as support. And now it's acting as resistance. A little failed break higher, and it pulls down, it pulls back. And it gives you a little higher low right there. So not a bad place to go. And a big bearish bar. Uh, it's really looking rangy now. You figure we'll test this again. That's exactly where it goes. And then it bounces. I don't like entering long here though until we got back above the EMA and you got a short trap. Notice that low, it's a double bottom. You're pulling back first entry, pull back. There's a failed second entry short. It's a breakout pullback long of that kind of that resistance area across there. So I like that one to the long side. It even pulls back one more time and then it shoot but you got to be careful going long here because you got some more resistance right over here, although you figure we'll probably go and test the highs over here, and or at least as we talked about earlier, these lows here, because notice how we haven't gotten to that point yet, and that's right where we get to, and it kind of traps people again. um, there's a break here, move to a new high, a little trap, and this is kind of a repeat pattern of over here. I don't like it. It's not a very good setup. There's too much congestion there. I think you're better to wait. Notice how it does break lower and it just kind of gets hung there, and then it finally breaks lower. But you need a breakout pullback short or something to really get short right here. And you get that right here. There's two legs back. There's a little bit of a trap here. Notice those matching highs and it breaks higher. That looks real bullish. That's congestion, and it failed out the low side, then fell out the high side and went back with the way it traded down into it. And when it broke higher and went down, just go short right there. A nice little easy, scalp right there, nothing more. And then you're working higher. It didn't really act as support there, but it didn't get much lower, and then it pulls back and tests it right there. But the most important reason I like that long is notice that new low. We actually had a break, couple of legs down to a new low, but watch it. There's your new low. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It fails. It turns and goes higher, and it shoots right back up and tests those highs again. And and it was tempting to go short here, but you usually need to wait on a second entry off these highs, and that comes here with a big bearish bar. Just go short. And then you get another little two-legged pullback, but it's right off that trend line. Another bearish bar. It's right off that midline. And notice how we shot right through the EMA, right through that, what was that, acting as support and resistance there. We shot right through them, pulled back and tested it. And that's a failed second entry long as well. Counting off that new high, first entry, pull back second entry, and a big bearish bar. And you figure we're going to test the lows again, and it shoots right down there and tests it. So, and notice what we're doing here. You got to close outside and a couple of legs up. That was another reason that you want to consider that one. But I still think you're better off to wait. Sometimes it'll just shoot off here, and you don't. And it takes off and it doesn't pull back until way down here, but we didn't get that this time. I mean, you can tell today, there's just not much movement. I mean, this whole range spent most of the day between, let's say, 2150 and 2105.50, so a 5-point range. So these little trends back and forth are not very big, and a lot of them are in the mid, or, in the upper or the lower quadrant of this two-tiered channel, and so they're 2.5 points, and so you got to be real careful how you enter in those. You want to get in near the lows or short near the highs, and so you need to watch it real closely and pay close attention for the traps and so forth. The better trades are usually off the highs or off the lows, but you just didn't get many of those today. The highs basically were the midpoint, and most of the lows were the midpoint as well. So there just weren't a lot of there just wasn't much price action today. The volume's down, the volatility was way down. The best moves of the day were setups were over here, and this is after 2 o'clock. You probably would have wanted to go long here and definitely long there, and either one of those would have given you a runner probably. And but they didn't come till after 2 o'clock. So that's what I saw today. Just not a very active trading day. I'm getting this done early today and going home. Hopefully it'll pick up some tomorrow. I don't know if the weather. I mean, I know we got bad weather all across the country. You know, I'm in the south and in the Sun Belt, and we don't get much cold weather, and we definitely don't get any snow or ice, and it's just we're getting pounded. We're not really getting a lot of snow and ice that hangs around, but every night there's a winter warm storm warning, and school we're having to figure out if my daughter's going to school or not going to school, and taking her late and picking her up early. So I've been in and out because of that, and then it just seems like there's something constantly with me lately that I'm not hanging around here all day. So, um, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully, we're going to get spring here soon and get things back to normal. And but in the meantime, I don't know. Again, I don't know if the weather was the issue or we're just a lot of it is probably just digesting this huge move up to new highs and into the 2100 area. That's what this looks like more than anything. Uh, just digestion of that move, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me to test both sides of that multiple times. We'll just have to wait and see. So, but anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Hope you had a good trading day. There weren't a lot of, like I said, weren't a lot of trades. Weren't a lot of big moves. If you made money today, or even if you probably broke even, you probably did okay because there's just not a chance to make a lot of money. So if you had any misreads of the price action, you probably had a loss or so today, and so it's hard to make up a loss when you don't get much movement either. So if you just broke even today, you did pretty good. Hopefully you didn't lose money, but and hopefully if you read this right, which it wasn't really that hard to read, but it's just hard to make money in with no more movement than that today. So it doesn't mean that you could have read it right and you notice there's not that many trades. So if you were trying to be real um, choosy on your trades, you didn't get many there weren't a lot of options. So you may not have had a chance to make any money, not a lot of money anyway today. So, but don't sweat it because there just wasn't much price action today. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.